Sometimes in life, a moment comes when two powerful worlds collide, one built on stage lights and inspiration, and the other shaped by grit, honesty, and a lifetime of unfiltered truth. And when those worlds meet, something unforgettable happens. This story is one of those moments, because on this day, a legendary figure walked into a place known for positivity, hope, and polished messages and decided to strip everything down to the core. No scripts, no sugarcoating, just truth meeting influence face to face. What happened next shocked everyone in the room. The air shifted, the atmosphere tightened, and a man who had spent decades inspiring millions suddenly found himself confronted by someone who wasn't impressed by numbers, applause, or image, someone who came with a message that cut straight through the surface and hit the heart of what leadership truly means. This isn't just a speech. This is a wake-up call, a reminder that real faith demands courage. Real leadership requires honesty, and real transformation often begins with a conversation no one wants to have. So sit tight, because what you're about to hear is more than a story. It's a challenge, a lesson, and a revelation wrapped in one. And by the time this message reaches its final word, you won't walk away the same. Authenticity versus appearances becomes a defining tension when someone steps into a space that prides itself on perfection. The message behind this keynote is simple. A church or any place of influence can look polished, organized, and dazzling on the outside, yet still miss the deeper purpose it was created for. When Clint brings this up, he is not talking about buildings, lights, or packed audiences. He is talking about the responsibility of being real in a world that rewards performance. He challenges the idea that it's enough for a church to be visually impressive or socially popular if the truth inside becomes watered down. People come searching for something deeper than comfort. They come looking for direction, correction, healing, and spiritual clarity. But when appearances become the priority, authenticity quietly slips out the back door. In this context, his point carries weight because he is the kind of man who has lived long enough to see through showmanship. He reminds Joel that applause can become addictive, popularity can become a trap, and a message tailored only to keep people happy can slowly lose its power to transform lives. Authentic faith isn't always neat. It isn't always pretty. It's messy, challenging, and sometimes offensive, but it's also real, and real is what truly changes people. Clint's concern is that a church can become so focused on looking inspiring that it forgets to be impactful. He pushes the idea that truth should never be sacrificed for presentation. Authenticity is not about perfection. It is about sincerity, conviction, and the courage to stand by what is right, even when it is uncomfortable. He emphasizes that a leader's job isn't to maintain an image, but to protect a mission, even when the audience may not clap for it. Calling out comfort zone faith means challenging the tendency to only embrace the parts of belief that feel good, easy, or instantly rewarding. Clint brings attention to this because he understands something many people avoid acknowledging. Growth never happens in comfort. When a church limits its message to positivity alone, it risks creating an audience that feels inspired but never truly strengthened. People may leave smiling, but they don't always leave transformed. He points out that faith was never meant to be a soft cushion. It was meant to be a set of principles that shape character, demand discipline, and push individuals toward a higher standard. Comfort zone faith avoids difficult conversations about accountability, sacrifice, responsibility, and the uncomfortable truths that force a person to face themselves honestly. Clint questions what happens when spiritual guidance becomes more abo. UT keeping people entertained instead of equipping them. When the message becomes too safe, too polished, and too predictable, listeners begin to mistake temporary encouragement for long-term spiritual growth. Comfort makes people feel good, but truth makes people stronger. He challenges Joel with the idea that leadership isn't about telling people what they want to hear. It's about giving them what they need to hear, even if it doesn't earn applause. Easy messages create comfortable followers, but honest messages create committed believers. Clint's point is that a church should not operate like a motivational stage where everything is uplifting and nothing is uncomfortable. The human spirit grows through challenge, not cheerleading alone. He brings up this keynote because he knows that avoiding the hard parts of faith eventually weakens the entire foundation. A message that never stretches people spiritually cannot prepare them for real life struggles. Comfort can soothe a person for a moment, but truth shapes him for a lifetime. Leadership responsibility becomes heavier the moment a person's voice starts influencing thousands, because every word, every decision, and every message carries consequences that stretch far beyond the room it was spoken in. Clint brings his point to Joel because he understands that leadership is not a position, it is a calling. The higher the platform, the stronger the duty to lead with integrity, courage, and conviction. A leader in a spiritual space is not just guiding people's emotions. He is shaping their values, directing their choices, and helping form their understanding of right and wrong. When someone stands in front of a congregation, they are not just delivering inspiration, they are offering direction that people build their lives around. That kind of influence demands a level of seriousness many underestimate. Clint emphasizes that true leadership isn't measured by popularity or attendance, but by accountability. Leaders must be willing to carry the weight of honesty, even when it risks criticism. They must speak truth, even when it costs applause. They must confront situations that are easier to ignore. He believes that a leader who avoids difficult topics for the sake of comfort is failing the very people who trust him. Responsibility means addressing not just what people want to hear, but what will genuinely help them grow. He brings up this keynote because he sees how easy it is for leaders to get caught in the trap of pleasing the crowd rather than serving the purpose. Influence can become a distraction if it's not grounded in conviction. Clint suggests that leadership in a church should never be about protecting an image, but protecting the truth. A leader must understand that every message can either strengthen the community or weaken it. Responsibility means remembering that people don't just listen, they follow, and where a leader guides them determines the future of the entire church. The power of honest confrontation lies in its ability to cut through pretense, silence, and comfort to reveal what truly needs to be seen. Clint brings this point forward because he understands that real change rarely begins with polite agreement. It begins with someone brave enough to say, "This isn't right," or "You can do better," even when it's uncomfortable. Honest confrontation is not about disrespect or attacking someone's character. It's about valuing truth enough to risk tension. In a world where people often soften their words to avoid conflict, a direct and sincere challenge stands out. Clint knows that leaders surrounded only by praise eventually lose sight of their purpose because no one dares to tell them the truth they need to hear. He believes that genuine care sometimes looks like a tough conversation. It is compassion wrapped in courage. When someone speaks honestly without fear or hidden motives, it forces the other person to reflect deeply. Even if the initial reaction is anger or defensiveness, honest confrontation acts like a mirror. It reveals blind spots a person may not even know they have. Clint understands that someone with influence like Joel can easily be shielded from criticism. People may choose comfort over truth simply because confronting a leader feels intimidating or risky. But when a person has nothing to gain and nothing to fear, their words carry a different weight. They come from a place of clarity, not calculation. Clint's point is that growth never comes from constant agreement. It comes from conversations that shake the surface and reach the core. Avoiding confrontation might preserve peace in the moment, but it often allows deeper issues to grow unnoticed. Honest confrontation breaks that cycle. It creates a space where truth can breathe, where change becomes possible, and where leadership strengthens instead of stagnates. A church should transform, not entertain, because the purpose of faith has never been to simply make people feel good for an hour. It has always been to change lives from the inside out. Clint highlights this because he sees a growing trend where spiritual spaces begin to resemble stages rather than sanctuaries. When messages become too focused on motivation, excitement, and emotional uplift, people may leave feeling inspired but not necessarily changed. Inspiration fades quickly if it isn't supported by depth, accountability, and truth. Clint's concern is that a church that prioritizes entertainment risks becoming a weekly event rather than a place where real transformation happens. People do not seek faith just to escape their problems temporarily. They seek it to develop the strength, wisdom, and discipline to overcome those problems permanently. He believes that transformation requires more than uplifting words. It requires teaching that challenges old habits, confronts damaging beliefs, and pushes individuals toward meaningful growth. Entertainment offers comfort, but transformation demands effort, reflection, and sometimes discomfort. Clint has seen enough of life to know that people don't change until they are pushed beyond their limits, and a church that avoids tough truth for the sake of applause fails to deliver the spiritual depth people actually need. He raises this key note because he understands that a leader's responsibility is not to fill seats with excitement, but to fill hearts with conviction. A transformed person walks out different from how they walked in, more grounded, more aware, more disciplined. An entertained person walks out temporarily energized, but spiritually unchanged. Clint warns that if a church focuses only on keeping people happy, it may neglect helping them grow. True faith is not a performance. It is a journey of becoming stronger, wiser, and more aligned with the purpose God intended. Respectful but uncompromising truth is the balance between speaking with kindness and standing firmly for what is right, even when the message is difficult to hear. Clint understands that honesty delivered with hostility only creates resistance, but truth spoken with respect creates reflection. He approaches Joel not to tear him down, but to challenge him, and that distinction matters. A message rooted in respect acknowledges the value of the person, while an uncompromising stance protects the integrity of the truth. Clint knows that if a leader softens the truth too much, it eventually loses its structure, its weight, and its ability to guide people. But if it is delivered harshly, it risks shutting people off before it even reaches their hearts. The power lies in blending firmness with humility. Clint's goal is not to embarrass Joel, but to remind him that leadership demands courage. Sometimes the most respectful thing a person can do is tell someone what they don't want to hear. He believes that when you truly care about a person or a community, you don't hide the truth to keep them comfortable. You reveal it to help them grow. Respect creates a safe space for the message, but the uncompromising truth ensures the message still carries strength. Clint speaks this way because he has lived long enough to know that people often confuse kindness with agreement. Real kindness does not support someone's weaknesses. It strengthens their awareness. He challenges Joel because he recognizes that influence can become dangerous when surrounded only by praise. A leader must be checked, questioned, and reminded of the mission. Clint's words may sting, but they come from a place of sincerity, not superiority. He chooses to speak with calmness and clarity, but he never dilutes his message. In his eyes, respect opens the door, and truth walks through it with purpose. In the end, the heart of this message is simple. Truth matters more than comfort. Purpose matters more than popularity, and real leadership demands the courage to look beyond applause and focus on transformation. Clint's confrontation wasn't about conflict. It was about care. Care for the message, the mission, and the millions of people who depend on genuine guidance. A church, like any place of influence, must choose authenticity over appearance, truth over entertainment, and responsibility over convenience. When someone steps forward with honest confrontation delivered in respect, they are not attacking, they are awakening. They are reminding us that faith is meant to strengthen, not simply soothe, and that leaders must guard their message with conviction, not performance. The entire speech stands on this foundation. Growth begins where comfort ends, and sometimes the most important voice in your journey is the one that refuses to tell you only what you want to hear. Transformation doesn't start with applause. It starts with honesty. And anyone who dares to speak truth with courage, respect, and purpose becomes a light in a world that often prefers shadows. Good luck on your journey ahead. May your voice remain bold, your message stay pure, and your purpose grow stronger with every step. Thank you for trusting me to help shape your story and bring your vision to life.